I have a theory. The influence of Fel dispelled domination from Sargeras, and Denathrius is probably now twisting together trying to figure out how Fel does that on behalf of the Primus. Vis-a-vis Amanthul. I don't think Fel dispelled domination. I think that, I don't think Sargeras was ever... I don't know if I believe that Sargeras was ever, like, a Fel Titan. Or that he ever was green. Like, I think that's one of the big clues about Sargeras, and one of the things that you've been led to believe that's not true. That the Titans wanted you to believe that he was some Fel-corrupted psychopath. The truth is, though, I don't think Sargeras is Fel-corrupted. And if he is, then he's Fel combined with something else, probably like Radiance or Light or something, and that's why he appears the way that he does. Because we waited 20 years for, you know, Fel Sargeras to show up with his big burning legion and his green flames, and that didn't happen. So, the Legion wielded those green flames, but Sargeras is not Fel Flame. And so the argument that I got from someone like Taliesin was that, oh, maybe the orange fire is like super powered Fel. It's like, okay, let's play with that. Why did Kill Jaden start with orange fire and then turn to green? That would suggest that Sargeras intentionally weakened Kill Jaden. Why would he have done that? Well, probably because he wasn't listening very well. So, that right there already is counterintuitive to me. Why would he come back as Fel the second time? Unless he wasn't strong enough the first time, but I highly fucking doubt that. Considering what he was able to accomplish with the Sunwell. Considering he literally bridged the gap from the Twisting Nether in a fashion that Sargeras sought to do when breaching the Well of Eternity, but was actually successful. So I don't know, it's one of those things where, like, Super Fel is kind of a stupid thing to me, and I think the truth more is that Sargeras is more akin to Flame or Radiance, and that Fel is a combination of that and something else, most likely Shadow, maybe even the Shadow of Unmaking, the Shadow of Death.
We know he has the information we seek.
There is a possibility that what I believe more is that it was the pain that allowed Sargeras to break the bonds of domination. I don't think that it's like, oh, Fel has this magical capacity to break the bonds of domination, and maybe it does. Maybe Fel has to exist because it inherently undoes order magic. Think about this. If a being is ordered by the Titans, they're ordered down to the soul level. It's at a soul level. Mind, body, and soul are all affected. Okay? If you kill a being that's ordered without altering the composition or destroying the composition of its soul, I wonder if it will retain said influence of ordering after it has died. So possibly the reason for Fel's complete destruction of a soul and manifestation of entropy and chaos could be that it is a force directly antithetical to the influence of order within beings. And thus, by destroying a being with it, you would also undo the influence of order. I've been listening to War of the Dragons scale, or whatever it's called. And the way that Viranoth and others, the incarnates, the way that they perceive the order magic and the way they talk about it shackling them, like relating it to chains and fetters. Like the comparison between order and domination magic is it's a very good one. I'll just put it that way. It's a very good one, and it's really unsettling, because when you read or listen to this audiobook about the dragons, like, oh, there's like questioning about, like, I really should just play the audio for you guys, because the way that Viranoth thinks about the order magic in her mind, and the way that when the oath stones are crafted, the way that the order magic kind of reaches out from the oath stone and like tries to touch Viranoth, it describes Viranoth like basically like fighting it back. Like it's very, very, very sus. Very sus. And it brings up the question of, like, is order magic doing something so fundamentally altering to the soul that, like, it's changing one's ideals and thought processes without them even noticing it? That's what's the most scary kind of corruption, is that which you don't perceive, you know? It's kind of like Arthas in a way of, like, when he was slowly being corrupted by Frostmourne, you know, some might say it kind of got to the point where he didn't even realize it was happening to him. I would say that the similar thing could be said about Turalian in his blind zealotry following the light. That, you know, in the presence of Zira, he was so blinded by his faith that he didn't even realize. I think Turalian's too far gone, personally. They could end up being, Turalian and Illyria could end up being the vessels through which they tell the story of overcoming the influence of the light and void to find one's true self, even in the presence of these magics. But considering that things like light forging have you go into the very fabric of your soul and expunge things like the variant of yourself that would turn to the Burning Legion, kind of makes me think that the light... Whoa! The light is, how do I put this? It would prefer that you adhere to its rules a little bit more than giving a shit about you adhering to your own rules, is what I would say about the light. Order magic is scary. Why are the incarnates more powerful than the other proto-dragons? They're like the aspects of the elements or whatever, but how do they get so buff? So Farok, so I don't know if you guys probably don't know this. This is in the book, War of the Scaleborn. Farok actually learns, and I haven't got, if they talk about it in the book, I haven't got to this point yet. Farok learned how to take on the primal elemental powers. Farok learned how to do that. He learned a ritual that empowered him with this primal flame. He then taught that to Iridikron, who Iridikron then taught to Razageth. So Farok was actually the first primal incarnate, if I'm not mistaken, then Iridikron, then Razageth, and by this point in the book, I'm not sure if Viranoth already is. She might be, but Farok is the first one who did it. Farok now 100% Fire Lords chilling in the Firelands. Well, that's what I think is interesting. It's almost like the primal elemental fire that he called upon. I'm like stuck in this situation where I'm like wondering, is it different than the elemental planes magic? It's gotta be, because if the elemental planes were ordered in the magic, I think the dream really brings this into question. Was the fire of the elemental plane of fire ordered and orderly, or was it simply not able to burn and destroy things because the stuff in the dream was already imbued with order? I think it's more so that than the elemental fire, which brings us kind of back to the Black Empire, because there was once upon a time where allegedly the old gods subjugated the elemental lords and used them as their lieutenants. Which I think is kind of funny. The only way that you can subjugate the elements is with the force of decay, as far as we're aware. So, unless they're direct representations of decay, which they very well could be, it's kind of strange that they allegedly subjugated the elemental forces. But, again, makes me wonder, is the primal elements of Azeroth different from what we perceive as the ordered elements in the elemental planes? Razageth is specifically imbued with the power of storms, which isn't one of our elements. Typically, storms is something that would almost exist. It's almost like para-elemental between water and air or something. And then one other case is also the para-elemental alignment of Viranoth. I think that might be quasi-elemental. I think that's actually quasi-elemental, where she's ice. Which is fucking weird, because that's not something that we associate with the core elements.